The True North. What Snow could mean for Westeros. Welcome to the channel. Subscribe if you love House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, and deep dives into Westerosi lore. Let's begin. The Wall still stands. The North remembers. And Jon Snow lives. In the aftermath of Game of Thrones, the realm is shattered, the Iron Throne is gone, and Westeros is left reeling from years of war, betrayal, and the rise of dragons and death itself. But even as the dust settled, a single truth remained. There must always be a Stark in the North. Now, HBO has confirmed what many thought would never happen. The Jon Snow spinoff is real. Titled simply Snow, this series will follow one of the most beloved and tragic heroes of the Seven Kingdoms as he ventures beyond the Wall into the unknown. But what does this mean for Westeros? What unresolved storylines could Snow explore? And what role will Jon play in shaping the future of the realm, from the shattered politics of the South to the mysteries of the far North? Today, we break it all down. This is the True North. What Snow could mean for Westeros. Before we speculate on what's to come, we need to understand where we left off. Jon Snow, the bastard of Winterfell, the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, and eventually revealed to be Aegon Targaryen, the trueborn son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, ended the original Game of Thrones series in exile. After killing Daenerys Targaryen to prevent further tyranny, he was spared execution thanks to a compromise between the Unsullied, the North, and the remaining lords of Westeros. His punishment? A return to the Wall. But what Jon didn't do was stay. In the series finale, we see him heading north beyond the Wall with the Free Folk. Was it a permanent departure? A symbolic journey? Or the beginning of a new destiny? The spinoff Snow intends to answer that question. This isn't a simple continuation. This is the first sequel in the Game of Thrones universe, and that matters. It means Jon Snow's story is not over. It means there's unfinished business in Westeros. Jon Snow is not just a warrior. He is not just a Targaryen. He is not even just a Stark. He is the embodiment of duty, identity, and sacrifice. The weight Jon carries is immense. He has been a king who didn't want power, a lover who had to kill the woman he loved, and a man celebrated as a hero only to end up condemned and exiled. At the end of Game of Thrones, Jon is broken. But what makes Snow compelling is the opportunity to finally ask, what does Jon Snow want? Does he see himself as a Targaryen, or does he renounce that name forever? Does he believe in the ideals of the Night's Watch? Does he think he deserves peace? Jon's journey in Snow might not be about reclaiming a throne or fighting a new war. It could be about reclaiming his soul. But even if Jon doesn't seek power, power may still find him. While Jon heads north, the political world of Westeros continues. Bran the Broken now sits as king, ruling over 6 kingdoms instead of 7 after Sansa declared the North independent. But let's be honest, Bran's rule is fragile at best. The Iron Islands remain restless. Dorne has always marched to its own beat, and there's no guarantee that houses like Baratheon, Tarly, or Arryn are content with a new form of government that essentially abolished hereditary monarchy. Jon Snow's return, even as an exile, threatens that balance. Think about it. The last true Targaryen, a war hero, alive and living just beyond the realm. What happens if word spreads? Would loyalists rally behind him? Would Westeros fear a resurgence of Targaryen rule? Would the Unsullied, now overseas in Noth, consider Jon's life a betrayal of their justice? There is rich narrative tension here. Snow has the opportunity to explore a post-war Westeros, not as a grand battlefield, but as a realm struggling with legacy, trauma, and the fear of what comes next. And Jon is right at the center. While Jon heads north, the political world of Westeros continues. Bran the Broken now sits as king, ruling over 6 kingdoms instead of 7 after Sansa declared the North independent. But let's be honest, Bran's rule is fragile at best. The Iron Islands remain restless. Dorne has always marched to its own beat, and there's no guarantee that houses like Baratheon, Tarly, or Arryn are content with a new form of government that essentially abolished hereditary monarchy. Jon Snow's return, even as an exile, threatens that balance. Think about it. The last true Targaryen, a war hero, alive and living just beyond the realm. What happens if word spreads? Would loyalists rally behind him? Would Westeros fear a resurgence of Targaryen rule? Would the Unsullied, now overseas in Noth, consider Jon's life a betrayal of their justice? There is rich narrative tension here. Snow has the opportunity to explore a post-war Westeros, not as a grand battlefield, but as a realm struggling with legacy, trauma, and the fear of what comes next. And Jon is right at the center. Now let's shift our focus to the north. Sansa Stark is queen in the north, strong, diplomatic, and fiercely independent. She has already proven her leadership capabilities and her loyalty to her people. But what happens when her supposedly dead cousin, who happens to be the rightful heir to the Iron Throne, shows up just beyond the wall? How will the Northern Lords react? Will they see Jon as a threat to Sansa, or as a Stark who deserves to return home? There's a deep emotional tension here. Jon and Sansa were allies, but Snow could explore what happens when loyalties are tested. And let's not forget Arya. Arya Stark was last seen heading west of Westeros, exploring lands unknown. But if she were to return and learn of Jon's survival, what would she do? These characters are not static. Years may have passed. Their politics, desires, and alliances may have shifted. What Snow could offer is not just action, but emotional reckonings between the characters we came to love. Perhaps the most exciting aspect of Snow is the opportunity to dive into the unexplored mysteries beyond the wall. We know that the White Walkers are gone, defeated by Arya at Winterfell. But is that truly the end of the supernatural in the north? Let's ask a few key questions. What is the origin of the White Walkers? Could their magic ever return? What other beings, ancient, magical, or monstrous? George R. Martin has hinted many times that the North is vast and full of forgotten magic, ancient ruins, and wild myths. Jon, now living among the free folk, is in the perfect position to discover these secrets. Could he encounter ancient children of the forest? Could new tribes emerge, untouched by the wars of men? Could there be entire civilizations beyond the wall that defy everything we know? If House of the Dragon explores the history of dragons and Targaryen conquest, then Snow could be the spiritual flip side, a deep dive into the oldest and coldest magic of the world. One of the most significant choices Jon made at the end of Game of Thrones was to leave behind the Night's Watch and travel with the free folk. Jon Snow may have tried to leave Westeros behind, but Westeros may not be done with him. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Snow, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content on the Game of Thrones universe, House of the Dragon, and everything happening in the lands of ice and fire. Until next time, the North remembers.